This episode is sponsored in part by PTZ Optics. Why hire a camera operator when the control is in your hands? Visit ptzoptics.com for more information. And by NewTek, makers of the TriCaster TC1. Stun your viewers, not your accountant. Visit newtek.com for more information.
Another Thursday is here, and so you know what that means. It's time for another Creators Corner. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We've got a really special show. In fact, I've been looking forward to this all week. And I know I say that every week, but every week it's a different guest. And just the interactions that I've had with this gentleman through email have been pleasant, funny, and he's kind of keeping me on my toes because I've kind of let the ball slip a little bit with getting him some links and things, but he was on the ball. So I want to introduce a man, but by day, despite his name, is a graphics designer. And he gets into the creativity from that, and then he goes and does content creation, and somewhere in there he finds time to love video games and his family, and has the name of a doctor. Dr. Scott, what is going on from Game Closet?
Hi. you paint me to be this wonderful, wonderful person, and really I'm just a mad scientist who's a little bit on the sinister side. So,
well, listen, it's great to have you here, and I know, your fans have been watching and wanting to watch and kind of see, some of the answers. And I know your wife hit up my Facebook page today, and she's like, "Oh, It's deep and dark in that closet."
Yeah, she told me, she's like, "Oh, I put this comment up," and I go, "Oh gosh, yeah, it is deep in the closet and it's very dark." So,
so she was very adamant about that. So I think we're going to be in for a real treat. And you guys, those of you that are in the chat room, I just want to remind you that I'm not ignoring any questions, and I do want to let you know that we are watching the comments. Please put them in there as they pertain to what we're talking about. I'm happily going to pull them up. But like we do every week, we're going to save all the questions, save your questions to the end. We want to make sure that Scott gets it out because you never know. Scott might answer that question before you even ask it. And so this is kind of like an intimate interview that I like to do with my guests, so you can learn all about the guest and find out your deepest, darkest secrets. No, I'm just kidding. So tell me, let's start.
The formula for new Coke? I don't know.
Hey, that was, no, don't jump ahead. That's question number 3. Don't start there.
Okay.
So let's go back in time. Let's go back to age 9. Okay. A little pizza parlor in Midway Mall in Elyria, I guess, Ohio, right? That's what we're talking about?
Elyria, Ohio. It was actually Woolworths, because they had, well, hold on. That's actually 2 different things. So, in my hometown of South Amherst, there was a place called Donnell's Pizza, and that was the original Donnell's. Hey, there's Johnny. So Donnell's Pizza, they were a friend of the family, and they had this pizza parlor, and then they opened a couple shops here and there, and one of them still in Wellington, Ohio. And I doubt they're watching, but hey, if you guys are still out there. And so yeah, they had an Asteroids machine and a Space Invaders machine, and they had like a really old pinball machine. And I don't know, I was probably about 8, 9 years old, maybe a little younger than that, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked, and I was always like, "Dad, let me have some quarters. Let me have some quarters." And so I was always going out there playing those games. But if you skip ahead to Midway Mall, that's a different story now. That's when I really got hooked.
That's from what I've found and what you've had in your bio. I was pretty impressed with that. And unlike a lot of people, right? You stuck with the classics. You had your Asteroids, your Pac-Mans, right? I mean, you weren't, which is kind of my era too. I hate to say that, but yeah. I was just talking earlier. I said to Scott, I said, these old eyes, and he goes, "Oh, you're young." I think you'd be surprised at how old I am, to be quite honest.
Well, John Hancock, when I saw him at Torg, somehow we got talking about something, and he asked me how old I was. I'm not telling you guys. Some people know how. I'm like a lady. I'm not going to reveal how old I am.
It's wisdom, right?
Yes, I'm wise. I'm not old. So, but when I told John how old, because I know how old John is, and I'm just like, "Oh, you kids," and he's like, "What do you mean kids?" And I'm like, "I'm older than you." So
wow, really? You're older than John Hancock?
Yeah, and
well, you're older than me then.
He goes, "You look great," and I was like, "Yeah, it's clean living and and whatever." I don't know. I made some smart ass comment. So and he laughed, like John, Johnny's.
Oh yeah,
so, yeah. But but no, about the Pac-Man though. My parents, we were at the mall, and they had a Woolworth there, and you could go into the Woolworth from outside or inside, but they had like this, like kind of like a cafe, if you will, as
Oh,
you
like
walk
a
in.
food court type of thing.
Yeah, and it was right there inside the Woolworth. And sometimes we would go in there and eat or whatever, and then you can go shopping or whatever. But they had like 4 or 5 arcade machines out front. So all of a sudden they had, yeah, seasoned, Johnny, absolutely seasoned, like with I don't know, just a little bit of salt and some fresh cracked pepper. Uh, so, but my parents are talking to one another, and my mom, she was paranoid, always keeping an eye on me. You're not allowed to go uptown on your bike, nothing like that. I mean, she was just, real,
She
kind of
was really
strict and
strict,
stuff.
yeah, protective.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And but it wasn't like they weren't paying attention. And I see this yellow cabinet and a bunch of people around it, and I'm like, I just kind of stop. And I'm looking at I'm just hear this waka waka woo woo woo. I'm like, what's going on? And this little yellow guy's just going around eating dots and killing ghosts. And I'm just like, and next thing I know, no mom and dad. And I'm like looking way down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get abducted, So, and I was big for my age anyways, but I mean, take this big ass kid in your car, So I'm like freaking out. I'm like, where's mom and dad? And I don't know how it's been so long ago, like 400 years ago. I don't know how I found them, but when I did, I was just like, oh, and there's this guy and he's eating these dots and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, I know both mom and dad are going, oh God, will you just shut the heck up? I'm glad that you're not dead. Don't do it again. So, but yeah, that was my introduction to the real Pac-Man and how I was just that was the first game that really caught me.
Yeah.
And then of course, a couple years later we got this thing. So
well, and so that's what brings us into, we're going to fast forward here. You go to Christmas, right? So if you guys pay attention, you might actually figure out how old he is by you got an Atari 2600 at Christmas time. So that was your prized possession from my understanding, right?
It sure was. As a matter of fact, now I don't use my actual Atari anymore. It is actually sitting right here.
Smart
it is
man.
In bubble wrap. And I mean, I haven't tested it in a while, but the last time I did, it works. Now, and just as a side note, its home is the Commodore 64 box that I originally got brand new. I don't have that Commodore anymore, but that's a project for another day because it does have a serial number. I'm going to see if I can track down that Commodore. It would be cool if whoever bought that Commodore from me actually said, I've got it. I'll sell it to you. Here you go. But it lives in this Commodore box.
So that's an original Commodore from when you had your Commodore. That's the original,
that
not one that you
box.
picked up. Wow. No. Surprised that survived all this time. And I'm not saying that because it's, you move a lot when you're growing up, when you go to college and you get out of college and then you get married, you move in your apartment, your house, your next house. Like it just goes on and on, right?
Well, yes and no, because until my dad passed away, it'll be 10 years ago this year, my parents' house was kind of a time capsule for all my stuff as a kid. So
you were fortunate.
Yeah, some stuff, I mean, I had everything in Rubbermaid containers and stuff like that. Some stuff, most stuff stayed there, but some stuff did go with me. So, you go to, you get married, you go to college, that sort of thing. Some things went with me, but some stuff. Yeah, Rob knows I'm ancient. I'm older than he is. He's a kid. Was dinner great, Rob? I hope it was. So.
So that's cool to be able to have all that stuff, and your parents hung on to it. My parents would have never done that. I think my stuff was long gone, like when my sister moved in.
I had a corner of the basement that was just mine. It was just like you see like 4 or 5 totes, small totes of, Rubbermaid containers that were just all mine. And there was another, I had some of my paintings from high school and stuff over there hanging off the wall. And, my foosball table and my air hockey table were always down there. So, I mean, I was lucky. I mean, we didn't have a great big house, but it was just my little corner of the world. And sometimes I would go down there and, before my 2 boys came along, I'd go down there and just kind of like, oh, that's where that is.
What made you put them into like a Rubbermaid container like that? I mean, did you Did you immediately go into the collector mentality at that point of your life when you stored them? I mean, or was that something that came later on?
It was a little bit of two things. My parents' basement used to flood,
Mm.
and then he eventually fixed it, and so my dad fixed the basement, but then it was that mentality because a lot of my stuff I had kept boxes and some stuff I would sell at a garage sale or
Yeah,
give to a
right.
cousin or
Like
something like
everybody did.
that. Yeah, but some of my toys that I felt that were really precious that I wanted to
Mhm.
keep, I had them in nice boxes, and then eventually when I got to an adult age, I was just like, well, you know what? If I'm get if I'm getting containers for all my Christmas ornaments, my Hallmark ornaments, because I'm a big nerd. I mean, I've got all these Star Trek ornaments and stuff. All everything goes back in their box, and everything's very meticulous. And I'm Monica Geller from Friends. If somebody asks me which friend are you from Friends, I'm Monica. I
So,
know
so
I
what you're
am.
telling us is that TikTok where they built the stuff for the Rubbermaid, those shelves, you're that guy. You made
Yeah,
the shelves and you have them in your garage and they're all
not
labeled.
yet,
Not
not
yet, but they're
yet.
coming.
Not, yeah, they're coming. One of these days, they're coming. Yeah, I've seen that TikTok, but yeah, I'm half Chandler, half Monica, and that makes sense because they got married. So there you go.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, though. I mean, to have that mentality, right? We all, I'd like to say that if we know now, if we knew then what we know now, we'd all be in better shape, right?
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of things that got damaged here and there, I probably still have, or like back on this shelf. Wait, what? Wrong side. Well, all right. Let's move my head. There we go. And then it's right here. Right, this guy right here. That is Oscar Goldman from the $6 Million Man, and then right here is the $6 Million Man.
All original.
Yes, and
Wow.
I actually, when I was going through those pictures the other day, I found the Christmas picture of when I got this in its box, and I was like, cool, because I don't have the box
Wow.
anymore. And I was like, oh, I did get it for Christmas. I knew it. And my best friend Greg, who I've known since I was like 6 years old, he was telling his his girlfriend that he used to live with one time. They were watching the 40-Year-Old Virgin, and they saw the Oscar Goldman on this shelf, and he goes, Scott has that. And she's like, shut up. He's like, yeah, he's got it. It's like he's the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh man. But you know what though? It's nice to have
Mandler.
that stuff. Yeah. He's calling you Mandler. But it's nice that you have some of those things right from when your childhood because there's so many of us like different people and they're like, I my parents kept every. You're lucky because my parents didn't keep everything, and I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, you had your stuff, but you still had to take care of it, right? You still had to
Yeah.
protect it from the water.
Well, some of the stuff I had to protect from my dad because,
He'd throw it out.
well, yes and no, because I have a Maskatron as well, and that was like his the $6 Million Man's enemy, and he had all parts, different faces and stuff like that. And I have some of the original parts, but I don't have the whole guy.
Okay.
So about 25 years ago, I was at a flea market, and this guy says, "Oh yeah, I can try to track stuff down for you." This is before the internet got real big and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so I spent $100 for this Maskatron complete, and I still had some of my parts. But my dad he'd go down to the basement if he saw some parts in one box and parts in another. Like, oh, so put all these in here, put all the, and then it got lost over time because the thing did, its arms came apart and came off and stuff like that purposely.
Hmm.
And it's like, unfortunately, sometimes your childhood gets lost to time. And when I mean
Right.
your child, I mean like the toys or the pictures or whatever. And a friend of mine who owns Rock'em Sock'em Retro in Bowling Green, Ohio, he was telling a customer here recently. Well, a lot of people who are of the age, they've graduated from college and they're from like the 80s and the 90s. They're now going out. They've got jobs now, and now they're buying. He goes, I can't keep GameCubes and Nintendo 64s on the shelf because now those now former kids are going out and they're buying their childhoods back. And that's true. I was just lucky enough to have most of my childhood kept in boxes and stuff. Where a lot of these people, they were like, well, I don't want that anymore, and they trade it off. And I've done some of that.
Yeah.
But
Let me ask you though. Okay, so on that statement, because a lot of the guests that I've had on here have kind of have the similar mentality. Do you feel that you're recollecting your childhood, or do you feel like you're getting the things that you maybe didn't have as a child, and maybe money was tight, or hey, it was just hard to find. Nobody had it because everybody played either Nintendo or Sega. Nobody played TurboGrafx. Nobody played, Jaguar.
a little of both, because there were a couple odds and ends that I didn't end up with, but my mom and dad, now we weren't wealthy or anything. My dad did work for Ford, but I never really wanted for anything, so I can't say, oh darn it. But once because I started working for Ford in 1994, and I worked there for 8 years.
Well, let
And
me clarify something though. Not saying that you wanted it in the sense that, oh, your parents weren't getting it for you.
Yeah.
You just really didn't have a drive back then, and until you start seeing the games that man, maybe I should have played this when I was a kid, or got this.
Well, yeah, to that point, and as I had mentioned via email to you, when I had the Atari, and then I had a ColecoVision for a short time, and then I had the Commodore 64, and then I played with that Commodore for a long time, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, here's high school.
Yep, that's what I was going to get to. Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't know any. I knew that there was an Atari 7800, but I really didn't know a whole lot about. I mean, I knew about the Vectrex, and I always wanted one and never got one. And then, yeah, that's my wife right there. She didn't play video games until she met me. We'll talk about that later, maybe.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I was a band nerd, and I loved music. I loved art, and even though I was a very shy guy when it came to asking anybody out, I was still like very girls.
that nerd mentality, right? Like,
yeah.
There's nothing. That's what I call it, nerd mentality, right?
Yeah. So none of those other games that I didn't even know about. I didn't know about the Sega Master System. I didn't know about any of this stuff until there was a girl I was dating, my first girlfriend, and then we were at a family outing or something like that. I think we were staying at a place that had a indoor pool, and it was like a hotel, and her cousin brought a Genesis, and I'm like, what's this? And he was playing I think he was playing, no, it wasn't Golden Axe, it was Altered Beast.
Yeah, there you go.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is cool. It's a pack-in game. So about 2 years later, when I was working at Ford, well, I had disposable money now. So I bought, within about a month and a half, 2 months, I bought a Genesis and I bought a Super Nintendo at the same time. And I never owned an NES until like last year. I mean, I go to my buddy's house and play his, and sometimes I had some games that I actually, hey, you mind if I buy a game? Well, I don't care. And I brought it over, and we would play over there, and I just leave him at his house, and we'd play Commodore at my house.
Well, let's talk about that as to why that happened. When you got to high school, your interest started to shift. You started getting interested, like you said, in the band and being a bando. You just didn't have time, like most of us, right? Our interests changed around high school, and so how long of the hiatus was there between, getting into band to where you picked up your next console? Because it sounds like it was a pretty long time.
I would dare say that it was, oh gosh, maybe 9-10 years, something like that. Because the Commodore sat there, and I would just, and my best friend, we're adults. I'm still living at my mom and dad's house. I'm like, 18 years old. I graduate from high school, and if I'm not going to my girlfriend's house, he'd come over. What are you doing? I'm like, nothing. Want to turn on the Commodore? Sure. We're playing the same games you've been playing for 10 years.
Yeah, because you didn't want to spend the money. You're gonna save it for your girlfriend or whatever, right?
Well, yes, but at the same time, it was almost like I had blinders on. And I was like, well, I didn't know there was anything. I knew there was a Commodore 128. I didn't know there was an Amiga 500. I didn't even know what the hell that was.
Yeah.
It was like, the girl's name was Beth. And the thing was, it was Beth, band, art. I mean, I was always drawing something 6, 7, 10 hours. I'd sit in my bedroom. I had a drafting table and I'd draw whatever. I'd come out and it'd be middle of the night. My mom would be like, "You've been in there all day. I thought you died." And I'm like, "Oh, look what I made." You know? Oh, wow. You know?
But
So
that's weird. Well, I shouldn't say that's weird, but it's like you missed the whole era
yeah.
of the battle of video games with Nintendo versus Sega, you know, Super Nintendo.
The death of Atari.
You missed it.
I didn't know what was going on. Stephen, I remember there used to be this dollar store. As a matter of fact, it was right across from where the Woolworth used to be in Midway Mall. And this dollar store came in, and I remember they started getting Atari games, and they were selling for $10 each. And they had like the Atari Juniors in their boxes for $30 or $35. And I'm going, why are they so cheap? I didn't know. I'm like, I already owned all this. I'm like, I didn't know. So
You thought you could still go buy Atari games.
yeah, I was like, oh, cool, new Atari stuff. And I think I bought a couple dirt cheap ones, and they weren't very good, like Crossbow or something like that. And I'm like, and my buddy Greg, who's, you know, he and I, we were kind of like Bill and Ted. We shared the same brain, and sometimes he'd be like, "Oh, this is a piece of crap," and I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, we, like I said, we grew up 2 houses down, and we had the same opinions on stuff. As a matter of fact, I think I became so cynical because of him, because he was just always very funny. And so I don't know. We watched the same stuff. We did the same stuff. We were practically the same guy in many ways. So,
Well, I mean that's to be, you know, that's how it is. You find a best friend, you know, your interests match up, and you end up doing this. But then something happened in 1991, right? Your spark kind of got reinvigorated. You started to was there like a breakup there that you like?
Actually, well, that was around 94, and that's that girl and I broke up in 92. I can tell you the exact day. We broke up in 92, and then there was a after I saw that game console, you know, I didn't think, well, I'm going to rush out and buy one.
Right.
And then there was a store, because I lived in South Amherst, Ohio, and the store, I'm sorry, the town to the north was Amherst, a much bigger town, and there was a store called Flashback Video Games, and there was this really cool guy. His name was Pete. I know his last name, but I'm not going to say his name on the air. And Pete and his wife Debbie, they had this awesome store. I mean, it was the most awesome. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I love Rock'em Sock'em Retro, and there's some other really cool stores that I've been to, but I just have nostalgia for the store, and I have photographs of the store on my computer from the inside that someone I found on the web. If I could go back in time to that store right now and just spend 20 minutes in there, I'd probably cry and then leave. You know, just be like, this was great. But he had everything, and the way he had everything set up was just beautiful. And the way they conducted business and stuff. And I know Pete made the money, and then he eventually sold it to one of the people who worked there after he made his bundles, and he did. And he kind of saw where the puck was going. And then after that, that guy who owned it, I believe his name was Michael, he sold it to 2 other guys, and I'm going to call them jokers because they were the ones who let it die.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but that's where I would go, and that's where I got my Sega Genesis. I got my Super Nintendo. I got my Nintendo 64 from there. My brand new Saturn. My brand new 3DO from there. My brand new PS1 from there. Every game console I bought from that era, I got them all from Flashback. And as a matter of fact, Pete became, I would say friends, but he became familiar with my mom and dad, and it's like, oh yeah, Scott wants this game, or I tell my mom, I'm like, please, it's like, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, here I'm like, I can buy whatever I want. I mean, I had money. I'm like, oh, I want Jungle Strike, but don't buy it new if he's got it used, because he'll give you a good price on it or whatever. And
right.
And he knew I was a collector. He'd be like, Scott, look what I got in. This guy just traded this in. It looks brand new. It's something like you would like. I'll give you a good deal on it because I know you're a collector, and he took care of me.
Right.
Pete was a friend.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's about when it happened, and that's when I started getting stuff and accumulating stuff, and then I ended up with like 2 or 3 consoles at a time. And then eventually I married my ex-wife. Oh yeah, the Video Game Exchange. I remember that place, and that was in Elyria. It's still in Elyria, but it's just called it's just the video. It's just the Exchange.
I was gonna say we still have the Exchange around here too. It's
Yeah.
just called in Eastern Ohio over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so because there's one in Coventry on Coventry Road. That's a real nice store as well. The Exchange is a real nice one. But
Yeah.
those two split off. I think it was like two brothers. So there's still the Record Exchange, and then there was the Exchange. But the Exchange is the one that became really big. Video Game Exchange, though, that sounds different than the Record Exchange.
Yeah, because our Exchange has
that
records
sounds
in it. It has
Yeah.
DVDs, and it
Everything.
also anything media it has.
Well,
Yeah.
well, this one that was in Elyria was in the same place for the longest time, and then they recently moved to the old Buybacks, which was inside of a Pier 1, and now this place is like
Right.
a flagship store. Yeah, the one in Parma's awesome. I loved that store. Is it still there, or did they close that one? Because I used to go all the way out to Parma just to go to that one. I'd be like, sometimes you'd find different stuff at different places, or you'd say, hey, I'm looking for this. Oh, yeah, I'm in Elyria. You got that? Yeah, they have it in Parma. Let me have them hold it. Yeah, I'll be right there. And like 25 minutes later, it's like, gimme. So, but yeah, I digress. I don't know where the hell we were at now.
Well, no, you were talking about with him holding these games for you because he knew that you were a collector. Took care of you, right?
Yeah, and he definitely took care of me. So, fast forward to when I got married the first time, and the mother of my 2 sons, I will never forget when my eldest son Cameron was born. I remember I'm on paternity leave, and my wife, she was not working. I mean, I was working for Ford, and there I am sitting in the rocking chair that we bought specifically for her to rock the baby and feed the baby and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she'd be asleep and stuff like. Here I am solving Metal Gear Solid for the first time. And I'm like, I just solved the very first video game I've ever solved in my life, and I'm like, I'm like, I don't know how old was I? 28, I think. It's like it took me that long to solve a video game.
And that was what year?
Oh God, 99.
Okay, so if he was 28 and
Yeah, go
99,
ahead.
you guys could do the math. There you go. We got it out of
There
him.
you go. You got it. You tricked me. No. Just like John Hancock, you cut us both in half. You count the rings. You know how.
There it is. There it is. Well, and so I want to kind of give people a sample. I want to get into the creation that you now have, Game Closet, where you're doing YouTube. You had some inspiration along the way, right? You started when you started. You got to the point where you're collecting these games. Did you just wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm going to call it Game Closet?
No, it didn't happen that way.
And you're going to make $1 million because everybody knows YouTubers are loaded, and all we do is e-beg for money.
Right. No, I know that back in the day that before the adpocalypse, I know that there was some money to be had, and some people were actually making some decent money, especially if you had quite a few subscribers and stuff like that. But then after the adpocalypse back in like 2016, and then there was a second one in 2018, YouTube's not paying anything anymore. And I'm not doing it for the money. I'm definitely not doing it for the money. But what ended up happening was, and I don't know if you have the photo or if you want to show it, but I used to, my wife and we lived in this apartment for about 6 years. And
is it the one with the console TV? Is that the one you want to show?
Yeah, that's the one.
This one here?
No, not that one.
Not that one?
Not the console, the LCD.
I don't know if is it this one?
That's the one.
That's the one. Okay,
So
sorry. I had the wrong one, folks.
That closet had big, giant folding doors, and it was in my living room. And that's where I actually had, the coats and stuff hanging, and I had all kinds of stuff up top. So eventually I was like, you know what? Because we used to have friends come over, and we would play 8-player Halo. And sometimes there'd be 10 of us, so we'd be taking turns.
And you all
So we
fit in
did
the closet?
Yeah, all of us. Yes, it was like kind of like Superman. We'd all go in there and we'd come out all dressed
I'm
in
kidding, guys.
all dressed in superhero stuff. Here, you put on the Batman and I'll be Wonder Woman. But eventually I said, well, why don't I'm like, I've got this other stand. I'm like, why don't I just go and put this other TV that I have in the other room on the stand instead of having to bring it out and set it all up when we're having. I'm like, and then I'll just put it in the closet and I'll roll it out. And I had two systems. And then eventually I started saying, well, I've got games here and games there and games everywhere, games and totes. Why don't I just go and put them in this closet and we can hang the winter coats in our big, huge, because I had a walk-in closet. We'll just hang them in the walk-in closet. And she's, oh, that's fine. So eventually almost everything went in there. And then I built more shelves and then I built other shelves behind that TV. And I would roll that thing out, and then we would have 8 to 10 people playing Halo or Unreal Tournament or whatever, however many people we could fit per TV. The maximum was 8, 4 and 4. So that was the original actual game closet, and then it didn't really dawn on me to have a YouTube channel until we were about to move. And then I was like, would it be kind of funny if I just opened up this closet and I'm like, hey, welcome to the game closet. I'm blah, 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 and Lynn's, that's my wife. She goes, yeah, why not? I'm like, all right. Well, then the unfortunate thing happened was, and I won't dig knee deep into this, but we had to move from that building. And because I live in a college town, but we lived in that building actually twice. We moved out and then we moved back like several years later. And we stayed there for 6 years and we had to move out because somebody was cooking meth in the building.
Oh no.
And I had and it was bad enough with, 2 adults. And then the police, they didn't want to do anything about it. And then like the one detective that came in, she goes, yeah, I can, because it started, I have a baby, I'm feeding a baby on a Saturday morning, and all of a sudden at 10:30 in the morning, here comes this odor.
Yeah.
And I know, you'd think I was Walter White. I know more about, cooking meth inside of a building. It's like, now than because I've done research. I know what it smells like when it's being cooked. I know what it smells like when it's, at the end of the day. I shouldn't know this stuff, folks. I should not have this crap in my brain, but I do. And there's my little girl who's like 1 year old. I'm feeding her French toast and stuff like that. And this idiot starts cooking meth. And then so they could never catch this guy. And I knew where he was. I knew where he lived. And so they just said, listen, we're just going to let you out of your lease. And I'm like, okay. So then that's when the pandemic happened. And then we moved, and you couldn't find an apartment then.
Oh no, not at all. Nobody was moving.
No. And so we ended up in this place that was so small that we only stayed there for a year. Mm-hmm. And then we moved again to this other place that it was just terrible. And my buddy, my one other friend, he actually lived in the same complex and he lived there for years. I'm like, this place was really bad. But the place we wanted to move to that we're living now, we've been wanting to move here for like 3 years, but could never get in. It was just always the bad timing. So we finally got here. We're happy. We've been here for like almost 3 years now. But that's what, because like when we were at the real small Cracker Box, after we left the meth lab, I had set up a small corner of my bedroom. Like I said, it was a real small place. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start my channel now. And it was just one of those things where I was doing research, and that's when I started watching Classic Game Room. I started watching Metal Jesus, and I started watching. And if you folks, if you like audio files, people who like audio stuff and video stuff, there's this guy out of Australia. He got real big during the pandemic. The name of his channel, he has 4 or 5 channels. His main channel is Dank Pods, and he reviews and crushes stuff. I mean, he'll be like, oh, this, look at this. He calls them nuggets, and he'll have like an MP3 player and he'll crush it. And he's just hilarious.
Oh, is it like that guy that will it blend and he puts the stuff in the blender and it blends it up?
Kind of, sort of, because he has some of these things that he'll blow up speakers and stuff.
Oh wow, okay.
And they'll start sizzling and they'll start and he's hilarious to just watch. So watch Dank Pods. It's hilarious. I don't know, but he got real big during the pandemic. So there I'm watching these 3 and I love Metal Jesus. Don't get me wrong. Jason he's very thorough, and a lot of his earlier stuff he did, like, he'd have friends coming in, they dress up and do some little skits and stuff, and he does all these great things with collections and buying guides, and different guests, and I love Reggie. I used to love when Kelsey would come on too, and then there was somebody else, I can't remember her name.
There was, oh, yeah, she moved to Japan. She got married and moved to Japan.
No, not her, not Kinzilla. There was this
Kinzilla.
Other gal. Yeah, not Kinsey. There was this other gal he used to have on, and she hasn't been on in a while.
Okay.
But my favorite guest that he has on, I love Drunken Master Paul. He's just so hilarious. And, I love the dynamic with Jason and Reggie, but, give me Drunken Master Paul any day. He's off the hook. He's hilarious. He's off the wall. And I think that's what makes me go, oh my gosh, because I'll just, Reggie's fun. I've met Reggie. He's a good guy. He's real laid back. He's real low key. But Drunken Master Paul, he's just funny. He's just downright funny. So there I am watching Jason. I'm watching Classic Game Room, and I was just watching all these guys on repeat, some episodes over and over and over. And then and I used to watch David Letterman, Johnny Carson, MASH, my favorite character, of course, Hawkeye Pierce. I love Conan O'Brien, and one of my absolute favorite comedians, and one of the best shows that I wish he never would have ended. I love Craig Ferguson. Oh my God, is that guy funny? And I've seen him live. So with all of these eclectic things coming at me, I'm like, all right, I think I can do this. I'm going to do this channel. So I've watched some YouTube gurus. I've done my stuff. And one thing I've learned now, if you ever want to start a YouTube channel, don't pick video games, because it's a very flooded niche. Okay. But if you still feel like you want to, please do. But it's a very flooded niche. Our category is very flooded, very saturated. But that's neither here nor there. So I decided, I'm listening to some of these gurus, and they're like, there's no better time than the present. Just turn the camera on and go. And I'm like, okay. So my very first video, if you go back and watch it, I'm doing Die Hard Trilogy. Now, I do a lot of skits. I do a lot of stuff. Some of my videos are just real straightforward, and some of them are a little more on the epic side. So, like with a whole story and stuff like that. Sometimes the jokes carry over from one video to another. My first video, if I try watching it now, some of the first ones, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. But considering that I have a background in acting and editing and graphic design and everything, a lot of people were telling me you're way ahead of the curve compared to other people who started doing the same thing. And that was a compliment. So thank you to whoever, back then said, like my buddy John, who owns Rock'em Sock'em, he goes, one of these days I want to be your pink gorilla. And I'm like, dude, you already are my pink gorilla. So now by comparison, considering what I'm doing now, and I look at what I was doing then, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to watch. But no, I don't do what I do because I'm going to get paid tons of money. Now, I would be lying to you and anybody watching this now or in the future if I were to say that, because I'm a ham. I'm 100% ham. You can open up the can and you can see the ham inside. But I love to perform. I love to make people laugh. And I've told many a person this before. There might be somebody out there who's having a really bad day. They're having a really bad week. They're getting a divorce. They not enough pepperoni on their pizza. They had a flat tire. How about they're just maybe a little depressed? Whatever. They got yelled at by their teacher. And they tune into me. And if I get you to laugh, I'm doing my job. And that's the best payment in the world for me.
So is that why you, because we're going to kind of get into this and we'll show an example here in a little bit. Is that why you call yourself Dr. Scott? Because you have the medication to make people laugh doing your videos? What did that come?
That's where that's how it transformed into.
Okay.
But the original reason why I'm called Dr. Scott comes from my junior high school Spanish class, because Scott is not it does not translate into Spanish, so I had to pick a name, and I was a great big huge Doctor Who nerd, and I still am. I built my own TARDIS for my wedding.
That was almost my guess. I was almost going to say he was like Doctor Who, or like it had some kind of spin on being funny.
Yeah. In my class, I was known as El Doctor. So, and then here's where it gets real twisted. So my dad was never a big person on education, that kind of a thing, whereas my mom was. My dad wanted to see me do well in school, but he's just like, you're just wasting your time going to school. You should just work for Ford and make money like I did, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying my dad didn't have a certain sort of wisdom to him, because he did. But ultimately, I always wanted to get a PhD in something just so I can make my dad call me Dr. Scott. So, yeah, Dr. Scott's a bit of an a-hole, so there you go.
Well, that's cool. And right now, guys, what we want to do is we're going to take you on a journey. We're gonna show you, if you've never watched Dr. Scott's channel, Game Closet, you're in luck. We've got a little bit of we'll call it a glimpse into Scott's world that is Game Closet.
Hey everybody, you want to know what Game Closet's all about? Well, you're never going to find it out in just a quick trailer, but here's a taste. Check it out. Guess what? This game is a piece of... It's considered one of the worst games ever made. And yes, worse than E.T. He doesn't know that you went to Ginsu University, so he gets a dose of slicey dicey twice as nicey. Ask for it by name. That's slicey dicey twice as nicey. This can get you much further in the game than you could possibly get if you were playing all alone. Playing Space Invaders Megamax 4SC is fun to play by oneself, but it's always more fun to play with a friend. And we love coming to play. Hey, watch it, bud. Who you calling bud, pal? Who you calling pal, friend? Who you calling friend, jackass? Don't call me a jackass. I just did call you a jackass. You all can go away now. Sorry, Scott. We're going to introduce you to number 4 on the list. It's Super Truck Racing. Super Truck Racing? What? Super Truck Racing? Get that piece of junk out of here. Occasionally you're trying to escape and a moron gets in your way. Well, when this happens, morons die. Let's give him a name, something strong from video games. I got it. We'll call it Snake. So as you can see, Snake is already up to no good with his pals. Oh no. Well, what will he do? Hold on, Snake.
Snake is resurrected by the powers of darkness.
Stop. That's not what happened. Remember, it's rated E for everyone. The driver parks, puts in his AirPods and his Backstreet Boy playlist. Now it's time to play. Fire. Goodbye, brains. Dead bad guy. Dangerous Driving is the game my seatbelt has been drooling for. Look at my shirt. Stupid seatbelt. The game is so common you're likely to see copies of Atari Pac-Man in people's yards and on city streets rather than dog poop. Why? Because people pick up dog poop and leave Pac-Man to sit there and rot.
Oh, look, it's Dr. Scott's mom.
I met your mom once before. She didn't say a lot, but she did vibrate a lot in your dad's dresser drawer. And finally released in 1986, receiving the highest honor in all of Austria, the Compact Atari 2600 Junior. It's gone! Then he's thinking, why aren't you getting me out of this freaking hole? As he dangles from the rope that I hope he hangs himself with. So hopefully now that there might be a combined update so you don't have to waste so much time waiting around. Alright, now it's gone. This is impossible. Ugh.
They look like zombified store mannequins possessed by demons with their glowing eyeballs.
Let me help you kill xenomorphs after we sacrifice a virgin to Baal in a pentagram.
Pest control. Hello, pest control. What would it cost to remove a few frosks from an abandoned building? I'm gonna put it on speaker.
You have a frosk infestation?
Uh-huh.
Get out of there! Just burn
Yeah.
the place down now! Get out
You're
of
probably
there,
right.
man.
All right, thanks.
Here's Super Mecha Godzilla!
He thinks he can take the WWE Championship from me, and what you gonna do, Mechagodzilla?
Ah, how delightful it looks.
Most effective, Doctor. We'll solve this. Game.
Later, I like to play with things a while before absolute completion.
I sure am ready for a nap. Frederick, keep your eye on the truck, old boy, while Daddy takes a little cat nap. Oh. Truxton. 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 Oh. 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 Fred? Fred? What? Wait a minute. Where am I? Where am I? What the fuck is going on here? You're still watching? It's over. Subscribe and watch our other videos like that one or that one. Subscribe. Go on. Go on.
Chicka chicka.
Need to put his head back. We were just talking about the Ferris Bueller. If you're just tuning in here, we're talking with Dr. Scott in the house. We've done that the bit with the Ferris Bueller. It is hilarious, and we were kind of reading the chat room as well. You know, they were saying, Scott, that you should have a lot more subs, and it's like when you put a lot of time into content creation, people don't realize this, and even in your case with the editing video, with me with the live video. It just seems like sometimes when you're like, man, this is going to hit, and then it's like 200 views, and you're like, really? Like, I put so much time and effort into that, this is you. And I mean, the stuff that you put together is just phenomenal.
Well, and I appreciate that. Thank you. A lot of the bigger videos are the ones that get no views. And I call them the more epic ones. And thank you, Rob. Yeah, I love that. I love that episode. And just the stuff that I bring back from occasion, like, the Pac-Man stuff. Now this cartridge here, this was given to me at Torg. And I even put the sticker on the back.
Oh, nice.
That's the Torg one. And so, one of the guys who helps out with Torg there, oh God, his name just left my head. It'll come to me. I hate when I go channel 13.
That's where the age is really starting to creep up now. Now we're really starting. So now we know he's over 50.
And it's just like in 5 minutes it'll come to me, and I'll go. Oh. So I'm sitting there talking to somebody, and he walks by and he goes, "Hey, this is for you," and he hands this to me, and I'm because
that's awesome.
I did the Evil Pac-Man episode, and then I carry it over again with the AVGN episode. And the bigger ones just really never go anywhere. I really hate that. And there was a gentleman, his name, I think he goes by the name of Warehouse Dave, and he left this really nice comment. And if Warehouse Dave is watching tonight, hey Dave, thanks. I really appreciated that comment the other day. I try to comment back on everybody. And he was thank you, Johnny. I know where you live. And I'll bring back that egg beater as soon as I'm done using it. So, but you know, this guy was so nice, and I'm very humbled by, I mean, for as much of a ham as I am, and I know I'm arrogant. I am. I'm not like I'm Prince William or but it just humbles me when somebody puts a really nice comment in there and says, and he said something like, dude, I really need to watch your back catalog. Some of this was so funny. And I really appreciate the stuff that you're doing here. You're doing stuff that other people are just kind of phoning it in. And he made a really nice comment comparing me to AVGN, whom I didn't discover until maybe like 2 years ago. I mean, I'd seen him on there, but I never really watched him before because I was knee deep into, watching other people.
Right.
And then, so then when I decided to do and that's funny too, because, excuse me, I should hit mute before I did that. Kind of like in the movie, what was the movie, Spies Like Us? Thank you. The classic game room episode that I did 3, and then I combined it into 1, so that way people can watch the whole thing. And I mean, I made it look like I'm on the Intergalactic Space Arcade. His microphone, Mark's microphone, is right in front of me. And then he has this other room that looks like the Cleveland Browns decorator vomited on the walls. It's just orange and brown. It's beautiful. It's like this place that he rents. That wallpaper's been there since the 70s. So thank you. And I love the moniker, the little picture there with Destro. That's really cool. If Mark would have ever said, "Hey, I really enjoyed the episode," I'd probably have a heart attack and die, because I love Mark. And I was telling Steven during the clips there, I did this episode about 9 months ago where Metal Jesus, he did this Patreon thing where it was like his most played Switch games by hours, and you can look that up on your Switch. What is the game that you played most by hours? So I'm like talking to my wife, and I go, it'd be funny if I did an episode where it was my most viewed or my most played games on the Atari 2600 by hours. So I'm and she goes, why don't you do it? And I go, okay. So I go in the room and I start writing, and I acted like I installed an app on the 2600. And then you get to the end, and some of now you do get some people who troll you, and they're like, because my channel's about trying to be funny and stuff, and they're like,
trolling thing on the internet? Yeah. No, it never happens.
Instead of showing the actual Star Trek game, I showed a clip from Star Trek 3. And then you get to the next to last one, I show Rainbow Six Vegas 2. And I'm like, yeah, this is a great game on the Atari, and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the Atari, and this guy's like, that's not even funny. And it's like, dude, grow up. I mean, we're having a little fun here.
Right.
If you want IGN, go to IGN.
Right.
If you want something that's a little lighter, a little more fun, you come to me. That's it. So it's like, if you don't want fun and funny, there's the door. Because God bless Jay. I love Jay's content. Jay will crack me up occasionally because he'll say something kind of funny here or there. But Jay, for the most part, he's been in the industry, he's been in the game industry, and Jay keeps it. He's
square pegs, just for those that aren't.
Yeah, square pegs,
okay.
And he keeps it fairly straight. He keeps it fairly square. He doesn't go really crazy and do all these outlandish things like I do, or like AVGN does, because that's not his shtick. That's not what he does.
That's not what he does.
And and Jay or John Hancock or I can name a dozen others who will be much more thorough on something. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't gone in deep on some things, or even Steve. Hey, Mr. Right Way, and you gotta love Steve.
Don't talk to him. He's the biggest troll of them all.
No, he's not.
He's a fruity pebble, that's for sure.
But if you want in depth, you go to people like that.
Exactly.
You don't come to me for super, super deep in depth. I mean, now if you want to go super deep in depth, you go to people like, Rock Solid, or you go to, who's that one dude? He's got the accent, the German accent or Australian accent. What's his name? Oh God, I can't remember his name right now. But anyway,
it's that 50-year-old.
Yeah, this dude has like tons and tons of subs, and he's just. If anybody knows him in the comments, I believe he's Australian. He lives here in the States. He just moved about in this past year. But anyway, he goes so in depth on tech and video games and reviews and stuff. I mean, those are the people I go to.
Yeah.
So if and don't get me wrong, there's been many a time where I'll see a game in a store and I'm just like, I'm not throwing $50. I'm not throwing $5 down on this until I find out about it. And I'll go to somebody, and I will be completely honest with you. 9 times out of 10, I will put the name of a game in. If I know, that's it, Modern Vintage Gamer. Thank you. Woohoo! I'm glad Modern Vintage Gamer.
See, that's why we have a live chat. They're our third brain.
Yeah, and I love that. That's great.
Yes.
Because, they're picking up where I leave off. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. But that's the first person I go to is 9 times out of 10, Classic Game Room or Undertow has done the old stuff.
Yeah.
And those are the people I'm going to go to first. Most of the time. Now, has Jason or John Hancock done like a singular game? Not too often.
No. They usually do pickups in groups.
Yeah, and or here's, or like Jay does like all these great ones, like here's some Switch games I'm playing and you need to buy these, and I have a couple on a list right now. So you generally don't see that. Now, John Riggs, sometimes he'll do that with a singular game too.
Yeah,
and John keeps everything really light. John Riggs keeps everything really light and really fun.
Real personal.
So off the cuff. Oh my God! I mean, one of these days, I know I'm going to finally get to meet him face to face, and he's helped
well.
out
If you're going, I better not say nothing. I better. So we're not. I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
We'll keep it. But I have a feeling this summer you'll get to meet him.
Okay.
At one of the, yeah. So let's go back over here to this lovely YouTube page. So I'm going to put it out there. This is why we do this show. It's not to just simply, puff up creators. This is basically you, the audience. I see a lot of you guys in here right now. You're like, oh, he just earned a sub. He just got a sub. This is why we're doing it. A lot of people that have good content, that have good production value, get lost in the weeds of YouTube. And that's where I come in. Not that I'm some big channel, but what I'm trying to do is put these creators, as we all work together, we've been networking, we've been helping each other. It's a way that we can put ourselves out there in front of an audience and say, look, I'm a good creator. I put out good stuff. And if you haven't done so, head on over to Game Closet Retro. Type in youtube.com/Game Closet Retro. Go give him a subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell notification and go start checking out some of his videos. Not only does he have videos, Scott, why don't you just talk a little bit about the podcast that you also do? Because I know my audience, they love podcasts. They love listening to game news and rumors and all that good stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. You can do Game Closet Retro, or you can just do youtube.com/@GameCloset. You'll find me. You'll see it. We technically do 3. I technically have 3 channels. Technically. So there's Game Closet. That's the main channel. And then I started this thing called Video Vault Live. There are no videos on there right now. We did have a bunch of videos, and my buds from the Retro Roundtable, that's Retro Rob. And we got Technish, aka Gene from Caps Off Gaming, and we have Johnny Graphics, and that's GRAFX, and we also have our other buddy Matt. His channel is Mystically, so he'll chime in from time to time. We do the Retro Roundtable, which that's the podcast that we do on Game Closet, and a lot of the time, what that podcast is is us talking about the future of video games, or sometimes something's kind of teed me off, like Microsoft teed me off about something or whatever. And we do them occasionally. We don't do them regularly.
Right.
Now the Video Vault Live on that channel, I'll tell you what happened to that. That was about movies. So about every other week, it was just the four or five of us would get together. Sometimes we'll have a guest here or there, like Dan Hadley from he's in England. His channel, his main channel, he has the Space Book, and he has Type 40 Live. They do Doctor Who stuff and pop culture stuff on. He's joined us once, and then we've had a few other people join us here and there. And basically what I would do is a movie review show. So we pick usually something from the 80s, Predator. We did 3 Indiana Jones movies at one time. The original Batman with Michael Keaton. A lot of these, Caddyshack, whatever. And we would we'll discuss the movie because it's something we've either already seen a million times or somebody will watch it and they'll chime in. And I put up, and then at the very end, sometimes we'd have a different sort of feature. Like one time I was like, famous beards in famous beards and mustaches in Hollywood or whatever. But usually at the end of the night, we would do this thing called the Harbinger of Memes. And I would just show a lot of these memes that were usually relative to the movie that we were talking about. And then, it's just 4 or 5 buddies just sitting there kind of having a good time on a Sunday night. So does that make me Captain Planet? Yes. But the unfortunate side effect of Google and the internet and stuff like that, because I was like, well, let's move all those videos over to Game Closet. And then let's have it being simulcast there and on Facebook and on Video Vault Live. Well, if you have the same video in the same place and it hasn't been cut, YouTube can go, well, that's a duplicate video. Right. And you could get flagged for it. Yep. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get rid of Video Vault Live videos. And the worst thing that happened was this. So when we did Young Frankenstein, my most popular video, now you can't see them on there anymore because I've hidden them like behind the membership paywall. I was like, what am I going to do? I got all these views, but I don't want to lose the views.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, we'll just do this. My most popular video is a Video Vault Live video on Game Closet. I had over 10,000 views.
Wow.
With a 1% retention rate. Less than 1%. People would come in and you'd see what they were searching for. They were looking for the real movie. They thought that we were Netflix or we were Hulu and we were going to show you the whole unedited movie. And we have people cursing us out going, oh, how dare you have this? I'm not going to watch a bunch of more. And I'm like,
clickbaiter.
Yeah. And, I would do these really cool, thumbnails and stuff like that, pretty creative, I think. And so I'm like, okay, I got to revamp this show because I love doing this with my buddies and our guests and stuff. So Video Vault Live has nothing on it right now. So I'm going to revamp it. We're going to change it up a little bit. The third now, and then I'll tell you about my daughter's channel just real briefly. So Perry Fractic from Retro Recipes, another great channel. He has a great tech channel. It's tech and technology and retro technology, Commodore 64. He talks about he's actually doing a really cool giveaway right now where he's giving away his Tesla. It is called Kit Tesla, which he has basically turned into a modern day kit. So if you like Knight Rider, he just released this video and this contest is going to be going on for a while. And if you want to try to win his car, Steve Rightway, I'm talking to you. This car is awesome what he's done to it. He's done all kinds of great, cool stuff to it. But he actually owns an actual kit now. He bought not a screen used, but he bought he bought 2 replicas. And he's selling the one because the other one actually has the actual key tops. But his main sponsor there is PCBWay. So my daughter, we threw some videos together one time and he asked us to start doing them. So we do these cute little things. And if I'm in the video, I try to cover up my face or you see me covering my face up or whatever. I try not to be in the video, but it's her and her bunny are usually mostly in the video. Bunny hasn't been in one. So there's just one. So we've done like 19 of these videos. They're about 60 seconds long. Some of them are a little longer. And the name of the channel is Harley Fractic's Hideout. And we take the Fractic from the Perry Fractic because he calls everybody Lady Fractic. That's his wife. Josie Fractic. That's their friend. Matthew Fractic, his best friend from when he was a kid. So everybody's Fractic. And I won't even get into that.
Hey, make sure you get this accurate because she was very adamant in the contract that you signed for being on the show that you were going to publicize this YouTube channel, and everyone in the chat room, you need to subscribe. She's at 100 subscribers. We'll know if you didn't subscribe because she's at a round number, and Scott will find out.
She lost a subscriber, and I had to tell her, because, Daddy, how many subscribers am I at? And they're just cute little videos. We don't get paid to do it or anything.
That's not what her agent said.
Yeah, she gets paid in pretzels and ice cream
and candy.
bars.
Candy.
Yeah, here you go. But she's 5 years old. We have fun with it, and yeah, so her videos will release on his channel during his retro show once a month. And then 1 month later, I put it on her channel. And then that's it. And if she gets views, she gets views. If she gets the one where she's inside of the Knight Rider car, because we act like she stole Perry Fractic's Knight Rider car.
Okay.
And then he actually chimes in on the dash. He's like, "What are you doing with my car?" And Kit is going, "I'm hanging out with you for the day. To heck with him." So she hangs up on it. But yeah, we had some fun with that. But I love doing the retro roundtable with the guys, and so we here in a couple weeks we'll probably do one. We'll just do one off the cuff and just kind of throw something out there, and because Rob's going to be traveling for 2 weeks. Gene's going to be at PAX East this weekend. Rob's going to be at
well, wait a second.
I'm supposed to go, but I probably won't get to
go. Well, Brandy said PAX isn't that great anyways, but a second. Let's back up here a second.
Oh, and hi, Brandy.
You keep...
I'll talk about Brandy in a minute.
Keep talking
Brandy, about... I love you. I want to give you another hug. I love you. And hi to your wife. So hi.
You keep talking about Rob being a great guy, and then you have this. There's a reason. You guys know we had Retro Rob on here a few weeks ago.
Well,
did you really get mad at him that much? I mean, geez.
I'm so angry at him.
Man. That's pretty cool, though. Not going to lie.
How dare he take my recipe for chicken popper? No, so...
when do you do Retro Roundtable? Let everybody know, like, day, time, is it live, is it recorded?
It is live. We usually do it on whatever Thursday night. That's usually when we can get together. And then Video Vault Live is almost always on Sunday nights, and it's usually every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. But Video Vault Live is not a regular thing. So it's just whenever you see it pop up, I'll put it up on a Tuesday or a Monday, and we're gonna do it. So if you see it on Game Closet, you see it, and on Game Closet's Facebook page, and I know Gene on Caps Off Gaming. I know he shares it on his Caps Off Gaming Facebook. So just whenever it pops up, usually on Thursday nights at around, I think we do it at 7:30. Usually 7:30.
So that's what you have going on right now. So I ask all my guests this all the time before we get to the question and answers from the chat room, as you famously put your question in there every week that everybody loves when you do that.
I stole that, by the way. It was one of your other viewers said that, and I'm like, how can I put mine?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. There was somebody else that said that. I forget who it was. It was like episode 1 or 2 that we did.
Yeah.
What's the future hold for Game Closet? Is this something that, listen, you're trying to become that next big YouTuber in an oversaturated space? Or are you just like, look, man, I have a passion about video games. I'm just putting my spin on it. Whatever happens, happens. I'm going to let the chips where they fall. What's your take?
The grand answer to that is yes.
There you go.
That's it. Just yes. Am I going to make a ton of money on this? No. Do I want the fame? Not so much. But I look at it like this. Oh yeah, I saw Steve. Yeah, go on Retro Recipes on YouTube, and he's doing and I'll email it to you if I remember. He's doing a thing, a giveaway of his Tesla, and I'll.
That boy doesn't need another Tesla. He's already got one.
No. If he got this one, he would burn the one he's got. Trust me.
I always bust his chops about it.
He will. But anyway, I look at it like this. I've actually said in one of my videos near the end, I said, Dr. Scott's got the, I said something along the lines of, if laughter is the best medicine, then Dr. Scott's got the prescription for you, or something like that. And the way I look at it is, the more people I can reach, the more people I can make smile, and then I can spread it. Now, what is the residual of that? Do I get more views? Do I get paid more? Of course. Do I want to be the next AVGN? Not necessarily. I want to be me. If I meet James Rolfe and he goes, dude, I saw the episode, and thank you for the tribute, I appreciate it. I'd be like, yeah, cool. I'm happy to do it, James. That's
Right.
cool. Let's go get a burger, and that'd be it. But a lot of it has to do with, yes, I am a ham. But that's how I have fun, because I figure if I'm having fun, everybody else is having fun. And I've said this many a time. How many times do you go to an expo and you see a panel sitting there? And we did our panel at Torg, the Retro Roundtable did, which I finally got it edited, but I misspelled something, so I have to re-render it. So
that over 50. I mean, it happens.
Technically, it wasn't me technically, because my keyboard keeps repeating keys, and I need.
That's the other thing that comes with being over 50. The excuses that follow.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. But my one key over here on the keypad doesn't even work anymore. I'm like, damn it, I have to use this one over here. So, but anyway, if I was ever invited to an expo and I was a little bigger, that sort of a thing where I would actually have an audience, I wouldn't mind doing a show live.
Yeah.
I mean, I would try to get something. I would want to perform for people. I wouldn't want to just sit there at a table and answer questions. I mean, that'd be fine too if I got invited to do that. I would actually be like, okay, if I have a big enough following and people know who I am, will you let me
I don't.
perform?
You know what though? I don't even know if that's necessarily the case. I'm going to kind of disagree with you on that, only because
Sure.
if you're entertaining, like I said, I'm not some big YouTuber or anything, but I'll tell you what, my booth was packed in Cleveland last year and in Pittsburgh. Like, we had guests popping in all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're in Cleveland this year and you're in Pittsburgh, be careful what you wish for. You might end up with a microphone in your hand on the live panel that I have going all day long at the Cleveland Gaming Classic.
Dude, I was supposed to be at CGC last year, and I was there 2 years ago, but I got laryngitis, and my doctor was like, you have to shut up for 4 days.
Yeah,
okay, you've all been watching. You know I don't know how to shut up. Oh, it was terrible. There's my 5-year-old going, Daddy this, Daddy that. And I'm like,
we might even do something with Korgs. Gary wants me to kind of bring out a slim down setup that maybe we could do live as well. But neither here nor there. I think that people are going to follow they like your personality. You and I were just discussing this when we were playing your video. I said, you know what? You could have the number one YouTuber, Steve Wright himself. Like, I go on his podcast, almost weekly. He could sit there till he's blue in the face and tell people to subscribe to me, and that they're only going to do that if they like my personality, they like my take on the games, they can get something from me in that respect, where they're like, yeah, I can tolerate this guy, or I like this guy's view. It doesn't matter. He can't force his audience to subscribe. So I think just putting yourself out there is exposure, and it's a good thing, whether you're big or you're small.
Well, like I was saying earlier, when I did that Metal Jesus kind of tribute, if you will, we tagged him on Facebook, and Jason saw it, and he thought it was funny. And at the very end, my daughter's in the video, and she, pulls me away like I'm senile or something, because, I'm over 50. And Jason saw it, and he shared it on his website, and I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. He goes, dude, that was so funny. I really enjoyed watching it. And I was like, he goes, would you mind if I put it on my website? I'm like, absolutely, go ahead. Exposure's exposure.
Exposure's exposure.
But not only that, I mean, the person that I made it kind of for, the one person audience, he really dug it. So I was just like, cool, and I don't know. It was just kind of an honor for him to just go, I mean, if I did something in Robert Downey Jr., a Sting, either Sting, the singer or the wrestler,
Right.
but I'm, if they were just like, if Sammy Hagar was like, oh, you did a tribute to me? Cool, dude. Here's some tickets. I'd be like, Sammy Hagar,
Right. And Steve makes a very good point here. I want to bring this up as we transition into the Q&A session. So guys, get your questions ready for Dr. Scott, because the doctor's in the house. And he said, just make good content and work hard. And that's one thing I can
agree.
honestly say Steve has preached to me since day one is spend your time. Don't worry about your subscriber count. Don't worry about your view count. Be consistent, work hard, push the envelope, and do the best content that you possibly can, and everything else will fall into place. And he's absolutely right. And that's what we all need to do as content creators.
I learned something from Jay Malone. I asked him a question at Torg because I was at Mystically's panel. And I asked a question of Jay, and I forget exactly what it was, but Jay gave me some very good advice. And it's hard not to it's hard not to look in the rearview mirror. But he told me, he said, once I put a video out there, I let it go. You've released it. You've put it. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. You've put it in the stream.
Yep.
And you let it go. And that's it. You've done what you can.
That's it.
And he goes, if it gets views, okay. Now, that's the interesting thing, though. Sometimes a video might sit there, and then 6-7 months later, all of a sudden, click, and it starts going. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? So, Jay, thank you so much for that. And I really do try to do that. But Rob and my guys from the Retro Roundtable, they will tell you that I'm sitting there going, why isn't this video getting traction? And they're just like, calm down, get off the ledge. They're calling my wife going, is he standing on the balcony? Is it getting down? So, and then I have to go, Jay Malone said.
Yep, it's the truth. And speaking of Retro Rob, that troublemaker in the chat room, he says, Scott, is it true you met RoboCop?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Oh, here he goes. He's up. All right, you're gonna get your answer right now.
Rob's probably never seen this photo before. That's not true.
Oh wow!
There
we go.
So
Here, let me pull this. Let me pull this down so you can see it.
All the glare and everything. But there's that's my best friend Greg, and that's go the other way. That's Peter Weller, and that's Dr. Dork. So, and that was last March. That was March 2023 in Cleveland at the Fan Expo. I was considering going this year. I was there as a member of the press. And I do have a video. I did not get to actually show Peter Weller on camera. The video will explain it all. But you will see my reaction after I got to talk to him and after we took the photo. But I got to talk to him for about a half hour. And I told my buddy, I said, turn the camera on, because I was welling up, and all of a sudden I was just like, and I was stunned. I got to meet one of my heroes.
Right.
So check the video out. It's about March, April last year if you want to see it, and you get to see some cool stuff there. But yes, I did meet RoboCop.
Johnny Graphics goes, oh, here we go.
It's something that I was bringing up on Video Vault Live quite a bit, because our very first video was RoboCop.
Okay.
And I kept hammering away on it. Hey, by the way, did you know I met RoboCop? I show the picture and all that stuff, and so just have to be stupid.
So to break the ice a little bit, we got that. We're at the Q&A session here for you folks that are just joining. If you're joining, if you missed the beginning part of the show, you definitely want to go back and watch it. We are here with Dr. Scott. You guys might know him as Game Closet on YouTube. Make sure if you have not done so, you go and subscribe. Put your questions in the chat room. Scott, I want to ask you, how long have you had this YouTube channel? If you were to say, just asking down to the day, the minute, the hour, but how many years have you been doing this?
I believe it will be 3 years. I think it's June 21st.
Okay. Fairly new to it. So, hey, you're doing fine, man. Like I'd be proud of that. And that's unbelievable.
And every year I've done a anniversary show of sorts. So the first year I did like an Oscar type thing,
Yeah.
and I had the tuxedo on, and I had my wife, and Harley was in it. Harley won an award, and my friend Kristen, she was in it, and they come on and they present, and then John from Retro 50, my
That's
50
the 50 mind again.
from Rock'em Sock'em Retro. He came on and he presented an award with Master Chief.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I do imitate a lot of different characters. I do RoboCop and Terminator and Master Chief occasionally, and then but yeah, and then this past year we did just a clip show, and we just did it live, and the Retro Roundtable joined me. And this year I'm cooking up something different, so we're gonna try to do something a little different.
So Johnny Graphics in the chat room has a question. He says, "Doctor, what is your prescription for disinfected gamers who feel they're getting tired of gaming?" That's a very good question, actually.
That is a good question. Wow, he really want to put me on the spot with that one. I would say number one, put the controller down. If you're not feeling it anymore, put the controller down. Don't go start selling stuff off, because you're gonna have regret. And I've definitely gone out and bought a lot of stuff that I've traded in here and there. So just put it down for a little while, and then let's say 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, kind of like what they say, if you haven't used it in 6 months, get rid of it. Video games is a little different. So I would say if you're not going to play with something anymore, you got a Samurai Western that's sitting there on your shelf and it's worth $100, and you're just like, yeah, I'm never going to play that anymore. Go ahead and sell it. But I would say start selling off slowly, but keep everything that is your favorites, because you're always going to want to return to them. And if you don't want to get into the new gaming scene when everything goes digital, if it really indeed goes digital, then stop collecting there and just collect your favorite retro stuff and keep touching on stuff that you've never actually touched before. But if you're done, within 2 years, you're going to know you're just done. So just keep your absolute favorites and get rid of everything else. That's my suggestion.
Another question that came up here from Retro Robbie says, "Scott, since we're both avid stamp collectors, what would you say is your favorite stamp?" Now, you knew you were going to get questions like this. You knew that.
Well, actually, I do have a favorite stamp. It's actually a collection of stamps. Back about, I want to say 25 years ago, the U.S. Postal Service came out with these stamps that were movie monsters from the original movie monsters, like Bela Lugosi, and
Okay.
it was like it was Dracula and Frankenstein monster, and the Wolfman. And I don't think I have them here in the house. I think they're in my storage, but those I thought they were really, really cool. So those are actually my favorite stamps.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, live and learn, right? And find something new. Listen, just because he collects games doesn't mean he can't collect other things, It's like I tell people, I might be a nerd, but I also go out hunting and fishing. So there's that. So, yeah. So Retro Rob, he's like, yeah, I knew that. Like
No, I do have other stamps. I don't know what they are, but they were ones that my dad had collected, and I have them in an envelope someplace. It's nothing that's probably worth anything, but it was just kind of funny that he was just like, "Oh, what kind of stamps do you have?" I do have these. Oh, it was really cool. They actually, because I got two different sets, because you can get them. They came with these trading cards too. It was pretty cool. So I'll have to take pictures and send them to Rob one day.
All right, so we've got a question now from Lindsay in the chat room. Dr. Scott, if you personally were a gaming console, which one would you be and why?
Oh, that's easy. And some people are going to go, "Oh, he'd easily be an Atari 2600. I'm like, no. As a matter of fact, I'm ready for you. I would be this one right here. And this is my Dreamcast that I bought when it first came out, and it doesn't work right now, but we are trying to get it running. And Brian from BD Retro Mods, he might be helping out with that, and John from Rock'em Sock'em, he's helping out with that. So we're trying to work on it to get it running again. And
we got to get Brian on here. You got to tell Brian to get in touch.
Yeah, Brian. Brian's a great guy, and I would be a Sega Dreamcast, because although although not sold as well as it could have been, there's a great library here.
It was
And
before
people
its
hold it in
time.
high regard. And this thing's really beefy too, so that's why. I mean, you throw it at somebody and really hurt them. So
Well, no. We're not condoning any kind of violence with the Dreamcast.
okay, so you can throw it at somebody and they'll really catch it. No, but it's just a fun console, and I have a lot of great nostalgia for it. So I think that's why I would want to be a Dreamcast. It's simply because it has a really fun library, and unfortunately, it didn't get the press that it needed. And
it was before its time, man.
Yeah, and then of course PS2 came along and said and took them out. So
Brandy in the chat room, she says, "Okay, I'm caught up." She had to catch up because she's up in PAX East, and I won't blow her surprise when she does the video and tells you what she really thinks about it. We're gonna get to that, but she was watching it in 2 times to catch up. All right, so Johnny Graphics, who will be on here in 2 weeks, so mark your calendars if you want to heckle him. He's going to be on. He says, "What is your favorite and least favorite meal?" Oh, smell. I'm sorry, I was reading something else.
But
that could be
That's very easily going to be translated into this.
Okay.
So my favorite smell is there's a place in Kent, Ohio. It's called Ray's Place, and that it's a restaurant and bar. And I went to Kent State for about a year before I came to Bowling Green, and I finished off at Bowling Green years later. And if you go into Ray's Place, a lot of different places you walk in, it has its own aroma to it, or odor, depending upon where you're at. But Ray's has the best wings on the planet. And when I walk into Ray's, it could be the middle of the winter, it could be the middle of the summer. It just has that Ray's kind of smell to it. And I know those wings are in there in the kitchen. And so that's my favorite smell. Just walking in the Ray's and I'm like, I'm home. My least favorite smell, weed. Sorry for those of you who like marijuana. I'm allergic to it. I can't stand the smell of it. It actually throws me into practically a rage because it makes me break out in hives. I actually have to take medication simply because of that. So now if people could stop smoking it and just start ingesting it, that'd be great for me. Unfortunately, I can't even ingest it because I'm allergic to it. So there you go.
Hey, that's true. I mean, that's just being honest. There's no
just being honest.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're having a blast. Be safe.
Yeah. Did you see the face palm?
Yeah.
I have a feeling good time is not what she's having.
Well, I don't see Gene in the chat, but if you see Gene, get some pictures and put them up on your guys' Facebooks so we can say, there you are. Hi.
She should do a live stream walking around about how she's doing. He said, Johnny Graphics says that's fine for me. Any last thing you want to plug really quick before we wrap it up?
I see that my daughter asks what my favorite Game Closet video is.
Oh, wait, did I miss that in here?
It's the last one.
It didn't. Okay, so it didn't come into my chat thing here. Let me pull it up because we got to give her the same treatment. We got to get it up here. All right.
It's kind of a tie.
You better say it's one with her, or she's gonna beat you when you get off of here.
It's actually a 3-way tie. And I'll tell you the 3 videos, and I'll tell you why. So the Pac-Man video, that is one of my favorites. And then I did this one that is a PS2 Racing Games Hidden Gems Part 2. And that's when I'm playing the snowman from Smokey and the Bandit, and then Harley is playing the bandit, and she's got the mustache on and everything. And so that was a really fun video to do with her. And then, of course, at the end, that one transforms into the AVGN video, and that's my number 3. And the thing is, those kind of all are relative to one another, kind of like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, because the Pac-Man thing goes from, the Pac-Man video to the AVGN video, but then the the end of the PS2 video goes into the AVGN video, so they're all kind of married to one another.
Okay.
But if I had to pick one, sorry Harley, as much as I like that video, my favorite is the Pac-Man video.
Okay.
So if you see see me holding a Pac-Man and it says Red Rum on it, and you see a demon over my shoulder, you got to watch that one.
Okay. So they're telling you. So he's telling you which one to go watch it right after this. Scott, I want to say it was a pleasure to have you on here tonight to talk about your history and how you got started. I mean, I am thoroughly enjoying the series that I've been doing, talking to the different content creators and being able to, hear your backstory. And I have to say, he has been super prepared for this. Like, he was on top of things, so much appreciated. Guys, I want to let you know, next week we have Brian Wiz. You guys might know him. He is the owner and founder of Pittsburgh Gaming Expo. He's going to be coming on. They had a wild thing happen to him. He's going to talk about the whole story of how he made a dream become a reality. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then the following week, we have Johnny Graphics on. That should be loads of fun based on what goes on here in the chat room, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. John's just, let's put it like this. Of all the guys from the Retro Roundtable, they all make me laugh. but Johnny is the one who consistently, every time I watch his videos, I always get I mean, Rob's funny too, and so is Gene, but
awesome.
Johnny's my go-to for me to get a good laugh.
Also want to let you guys know, if you are in the Missouri area, if you're in there, there is a gaming expo convention, Como Retro Game Convention. If you are in that area, I guess it's Columbia, Missouri. On April 20th, that is a Saturday, it's a day long. Myself, I will be out there as a guest along with Neo Ness. You guys all know us from Mr. Rightway's podcast. He will also be there, and Paul Niedermeyer will be there. So if you're in the Missouri area and you want to come and just tell us how Mr. Rightway's a fruity pebble, do it. Come on out. And Ness and I will be there to, kind of reassure you guys that everything will be cool. So if you haven't, go check it out on Facebook. Como Retro Game Convention. That's just one of the conventions that you'll probably get to see me at this year and poke fun at me. We'll be broadcasting live like we always do. So I'm telling you, be very careful with Scott what you asked for, because you might be handed a microphone and told to rock and roll with us.
I have no problem with that. No problem at all. And thank you so much for having me on. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being good sports and not frying me to a crisp. And it's been a real pleasure tonight.
Hey, you know what? Your wife told me don't hold anything back. She's like, the closet's messy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's skeletons in this closet. Anybody can ask whatever they wanted.
She said, don't hold back. So, I got the permission already. So, I really appreciate it. Guys, again, if you haven't done so, head on over to @GameCloset on YouTube, youtube.com/@GameCloset, and you'll find it. We will be back next week again with our good friend Brian Wiz. He will be on, and we're gonna have a lot of good, cool guests. John Riggs will be on. We've got a bunch of people lined up through April. We look forward to it, guys. As always, until next time, keep it buzzing.